I was at Murphy's bar on a Thursday night, nursing my third beer and half listening to Dave ramble about his fantasy football lineup. The place smelled like stale peanuts and spilled lager, the kind of dive where the wood was sticky and the bartender knew your drink before you sat down. I liked it that way. No pretense, no bullshit. "You even listening to me?" Dave asked, waving a hand in front of my face. "Not really," I said, taking another sip. "Your team sucks anyway." Mike laughed from across the table. "He's got you there." Dave flipped us both off, but he was grinning. This was our ritual. Every Thursday, same bar, same booth in the back corner, same stupid conversations that meant nothing and everything at the same time. It was the one night a week I didn't have to think about the law firm, about the stack of case files sitting on my desk, about the mortgage payment coming due, about the fact that my wife and I hadn't had a real conversation in months. "You're quiet tonight," Mike said, looking at me over the rim of his glass. "More than usual." I shrugged. "Just tired." "You're always tired," Dave said. "That's called being 40 and married." 41, I corrected. Even worse. The door to the bar opened, letting in a gust of cold October air. A few people glanced over, but most kept their eyes on their drinks. That's the thing about regulars. They don't care who comes or goes unless it's someone they know. I was reaching for my beer when I felt someone slide into the booth next to me. Not across from me, where there was plenty of room, but right next to me, close enough that I could smell cigarette smoke and something else, something sour like sweat or fear. "Excuse me?" I said, turning to look at the guy. He was older, maybe 50, with gray stubble and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. His jacket was worn at the elbows, and there was a coffee stain on his collar. He didn't look at me right away. Instead, he stared straight ahead at the bottles lined up behind the bar. "Can I help you?" I asked, more irritated now. Dave and Mike had gone quiet, watching. "In 5 days," he said, his voice low and rough, "your wife and son will betray you, and you'll have one choice. Pick the one that feels wrong." The words hung in the air between us. I blinked, processing what I'd just heard. "What?" He didn't repeat himself. He just stared at me for another long moment, then slid back out of the booth and walked toward the door. The whole thing took maybe 30 seconds. "What the hell was that?" Dave asked. I watched the man disappear into the night. "No idea." "Probably drunk," Mike said, but he didn't sound convinced. I forced a laugh, trying to shake off the weird feeling crawling up my spine. "Yeah, probably." But I kept thinking about it. The way he looked at me. The specificity of it. 5 days. Your wife and son. One choice. "You okay?" Dave asked. "Yeah," I said, draining the rest of my beer. "Just some crazy asshole." We finished our drinks and said our goodbyes around midnight. I drove home through empty streets, the man's words echoing in my head like a song I couldn't shake. "In 5 days, your wife and son will betray you." It was ridiculous, random, the kind of thing you forget by morning. But I didn't forget. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark except for the porch light. Elena's car was in the garage, which meant she was home, probably already asleep. She'd been working late a lot recently, coming home after 9 or 10, too tired to talk, too stressed to do anything but pour a glass of wine and disappear into her phone. I sat in the car for a minute, engine off, staring at the house. 15 years we'd been married, 15 years in this same house, with the same mortgage and the same problems that never quite got solved. We weren't unhappy exactly. We just weren't anything. Pick the one that feels wrong. I shook my head and got out of the car. It was late, and I was overthinking things. The guy was drunk or high or mentally ill. It didn't mean anything. Inside, the house was quiet. I kicked off my shoes and hung my jacket on the hook by the door. The living room was clean, almost too clean, like nobody actually lived here. Elena had always been like that, everything in its place, no clutter, no mess. It used to make me feel calm. Now it just felt sterile. I walked upstairs, careful not to make noise. Ethan's door was closed, a strip of light visible underneath. He was probably still up, headphones on, staring at his computer screen. 17 years old, and I barely knew him anymore. He'd grown distant over the past year, sullen and secretive in the way teenagers are. But something about it felt different. Wrong. Elena was asleep when I slipped into the bedroom. She was on her side, facing away from me, her breathing deep and steady. I undressed in the dark and climbed into bed, keeping to my side, careful not to wake her. I lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the man at the bar. 5 days. It was Thursday night, technically Friday morning now. That meant Tuesday. Something was supposed to happen on Tuesday. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, but every time I started to drift off, I saw the man's face, heard his voice. Pick the one that feels wrong. What the hell did that even mean? Friday morning came too fast. My alarm went off at 6:30, and I dragged myself out of bed, feeling like I'd barely slept. Elena was already up, standing at the bathroom mirror in her robe, putting on makeup. She glanced at me in the reflection. "You were out late," she said. "Not that late, midnight." I went to bed at 10. I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. I went downstairs and made coffee, standing at the kitchen counter in the gray morning light, waiting for the pot to finish brewing. The house was silent except for the ticking of the clock on the wall and the hum of the refrigerator. Ethan came down a few minutes later, still in his pajamas, hair sticking up in the back. He grabbed a box of cereal from the cupboard and sat at the table without looking at me. "Morning," I said. "Morning." That was it. That was our entire conversation. He ate his cereal, scrolling through his phone, and I drank my coffee, staring out the window at the backyard. The grass needed mowing. The fence needed painting. Everything needed something. Elena came down dressed for work, a sharp gray suit that made her look professional and distant at the same time. She poured herself a travel mug of coffee, checked her phone, and grabbed her keys. "I have a late meeting tonight," she said. "Don't wait up." "Another one?" She gave me a look. "It's the Branson account. You know how important it is." I did know. She'd been talking about it for weeks. The Branson account was supposed to be the thing that got her promoted to senior director, the thing that finally made all the long hours and missed dinners worth it. "Okay," I said. She kissed me on the cheek, a quick peck that felt more like a habit than affection, and left. The door closed behind her, and the house felt even emptier than before. Ethan finished his cereal and disappeared back upstairs. I stood alone in the kitchen holding my coffee mug, wondering when things had gotten so hollow. The workday was a blur. I sat at my desk at the law firm, shuffling papers, answering emails, pretending to care about case files and client meetings. My boss, Richard, stopped by my office around noon to complain about a filing deadline, and I nodded along, offering the appropriate responses at the appropriate times. "You okay?" he asked at one point. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." "Aren't we all?" He left, and I went back to staring at my computer screen, not really seeing it. I kept thinking about the man at the bar. 5 days. Tuesday. The more I tried to dismiss it, the more it nagged at me, like a splinter I couldn't quite reach. By the time I got home that night, Elena was already gone to her meeting. I heated up leftover pasta and ate it standing at the counter, then went upstairs to check on Ethan. His door was closed again, music leaking out, bass thumping through the walls. I knocked. "What?" he called. "Just checking in." "I'm fine." I stood there for a moment, hand on the doorknob, debating whether to push it. But I didn't. I just went back downstairs and turned on the TV, flipping through channels without really watching anything. Elena came home after 11, smelling like wine and perfume. She said the meeting went well, that the client loved their pitch, that she was exhausted. Then she went upstairs, and I heard the shower turn on. I sat in the dark living room, alone, wondering if this was what the rest of my life was going to look like. Saturday and Sunday passed in the same blur. Elena worked from home, locked in her office with the door closed. Ethan stayed in his room. I mowed the lawn, fixed a leaky faucet, did all the small, meaningless tasks that fill up empty weekends. Nobody talked. Nobody fought. We just existed in the same space, moving around each other like ghosts. By Monday night, I'd almost convinced myself that the man at the bar was just a random drunk, that his warning was meaningless. Almost. But when I went to bed that night, alone because Elena had fallen asleep on the couch with her laptop, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Tomorrow was Tuesday. 5 days. I closed my eyes and waited for whatever was coming. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? Tuesday morning started like any other. I woke up to the alarm, the same one I'd been waking up to for 15 years, and lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling. Elena was already up and in the shower. I could hear the water running through the pipes, the familiar sounds of our morning routine. I got dressed and went downstairs, made coffee, stood at the kitchen counter waiting for it to brew. Everything felt normal. Too normal. Ethan came down, grabbed an apple instead of cereal, and headed for the door. "You're leaving early," I said. "Study group before first period." "Since when do you go to study groups?" He paused, hand on the doorknob, and looked back at me. There was something in his expression I couldn't quite read. "Since now." Then he was gone, and I was alone again, with my coffee and my thoughts. Elena came down 20 minutes later, already on her phone, typing rapidly with her thumbs. She poured coffee into her travel mug without looking up. "Big day?" I asked. "Every day is a big day." She glanced at me finally. "I might be late again tonight. We're finalizing the Branson presentation." "You finalized it last week. We're refinalizing it." She kissed my cheek again, that same quick, automatic gesture, and left. I listened to her car pull out of the driveway, the sound fading into the distance, and then I was alone in the silence. I got to the office at 8:30 and dove into work, trying to keep my mind occupied, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, like the air pressure had changed, and I was the only one who noticed. At 10:15, Richard stopped by my office to drop off another stack of files. "Morrison case needs your review by end of day," he said. "Got it." He lingered in the doorway. "You sure you're okay? You've been off all week." "I'm fine. If you need a day off." "I don't." He left, and I turned back to my computer, staring at the screen without seeing it. The morning dragged on. 11 o'clock, 11:30, noon. I was about to go grab lunch when my phone rang. The caller ID said Ethan. My stomach dropped. Ethan never called me during the day. Never. He texted if he needed something, and even that was rare. I picked up. "Hey, what's up?" "Dad." His voice was tight, strained. "I need to talk to you." "Okay, what's wrong?" "Not on the phone. Can you come home?" "Home? It's the middle of the day. I'm at work." "I know, but..." He paused. I could hear him breathing, fast and shallow. "I saw something. Something with Mom." The words hit me like a punch. I stood up, already grabbing my keys. "What did you see?" "Not on the phone," he repeated. "Please, just come home." "I'm on my way." I hung up and told Richard's assistant I had a family emergency, then practically ran to my car. The drive home took 15 minutes, but it felt like an hour. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what Ethan had said. I saw something. Something with Mom. When I pulled into the driveway, Ethan's car was there. He was sitting on the front steps, head in his hands. He looked up when I got out of the car, and I saw his face was pale, his eyes red. "Talk to me," I said, sitting down next to him. He took a breath, staring at his shoes. "Last night, I went to grab food after practice. You know that Italian place downtown, Romano's? I nodded. I saw Mom there. She was at a table in the back corner and she was with someone. A guy. My chest tightened. A co-worker? The world tilted. I heard the words, understood them individually, but together they didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. You're sure it was her? I'm sure. Maybe you misunderstood what you saw. Maybe. I didn't misunderstand. His voice cracked. I stood there and watched for like 5 minutes. She was smiling at him the way she used to smile at you, and when they left together, got into his car. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking, so I shoved them in my pockets. Who was he? I asked. I don't know. Tall, dark hair, expensive suit. I'd never seen him before. Did she see you? No, I left before they did. I sat there on the steps, trying to process it. Elena. My wife of 15 years, the woman I'd built a life with, had a child with, trusted completely. She was having an affair. In 5 days, your wife and son will betray you. The man's words came rushing back, and suddenly everything clicked into place. The late nights, the distance, the way she'd been pulling away for months. I'm sorry, Dad, Ethan said quietly. I didn't want to tell you, but I couldn't just... You did the right thing. I stood up, my legs unsteady. I needed to think, needed to figure out what to do next. Are you going to confront her? Ethan asked. I don't know yet. What can I do? I looked at him. This kid who was almost a man, who just had his world shattered the same as mine. Nothing. This isn't your problem. She's my mom. I know, but this is between me and her. I went inside, Ethan following behind me. The house felt different now, tainted, like every corner held secrets I didn't know about. I walked through the living room, up the stairs, into our bedroom. Everything looked the same. The bed was made, Elena's perfume bottles lined up on the dresser, her side of the closet organized and neat. But it was all a lie. I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to think rationally. I needed proof. Real proof, not just Ethan's word, as much as I believed him. If I was going to confront Elena, I needed to be certain. My phone buzzed. A text from Elena. Working through lunch, might not be home until late again. Love you. Love you. I stared at the words until they stopped making sense. Ethan appeared in the doorway. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. Do you want me to? No. I stood up. Go back to school. Act normal. Don't tell your mom you told me anything. But, Ethan, please. He hesitated, then nodded. Okay. After he left, I sat alone in the bedroom for a long time, thinking. The man at the bar had been right. 5 days. My wife and son had betrayed me, just like he said. Ethan's betrayal was unintentional, just him telling me the truth, but it was still a betrayal in the sense that it shattered the illusion of our family. Pick the one that feels wrong. What did that mean? What choice was I supposed to make? I went back downstairs and paced the living room, trying to form a plan. I needed proof. I needed to know for sure before I did anything. Elena's laptop was on the coffee table, closed but not locked away like usual. She must have forgotten it this morning in her rush. I picked it up, opened it. No password. She'd disabled it months ago after getting tired of typing it in every time. I felt a twinge of guilt as I opened her email, but it was overwhelmed by something else. Anger, hurt, the need to know. Her inbox was full of work emails, hundreds of them, organized into folders by client and project. I scrolled through looking for anything that seemed personal. Nothing. Then I opened her text messages. There were the usual ones, work contacts, her sister, a few friends, and then I saw it. A conversation with someone named Adam. The messages went back months. I clicked on it. The most recent message was from this morning. Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place? Elena's response. Yes, 8 p.m. I scrolled up, reading through the history. The messages started out professional, discussing work projects and meetings. But gradually, over weeks and months, they shifted, became more personal, more intimate. I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was amazing. I've never felt this way before. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the laptop. I kept reading, going further back, seeing the progression of their relationship laid out in text messages. It had started 6 months ago. 6 months of lies. 6 months of her coming home and kissing me on the cheek and pretending everything was normal. The most damning message was from 3 weeks ago. "I think I love you," Elena's response. "I know I love you." I closed the laptop and set it back on the coffee table, exactly where I'd found it. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and drank it standing at the sink, staring out the window at nothing. My wife was in love with someone else. The thought kept circling in my head, refusing to settle. I'd suspected something was wrong, had felt the distance growing between us, but I'd told myself it was just a rough patch. Every marriage had them. We'd get through it. But this wasn't a rough patch. This was the end. I spent the rest of the day at home, sitting in the living room, thinking. I called Richard and told him I needed to take the rest of the week off. Family emergency. He didn't ask questions. Ethan came home around 3:30. He found me in the same spot, still sitting on the couch. "Did you talk to her?" he asked. "Not yet." "Are you going to?" "Yes." He sat down across from me, fidgeting with his phone. "I'm really sorry, Dad." "Stop apologizing. You didn't do anything wrong." "It feels wrong." "I know." We sat in silence for a while. Then Ethan said, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet." But that was a lie. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I just wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. Elena came home at 9:30, later than she'd said. She walked in looking tired but satisfied, like someone who'd just had a good evening. She smiled when she saw me on the couch. "Hey, you're still up." "We need to talk." Her smile faded. "About what?" "Sit down." She set her purse on the table and sat in the chair across from me, the same one Ethan had been in earlier. "What's going on?" "Where were you tonight?" "I told you, working on the Branson presentation." "Until 9:30? "We went to dinner after, client dinner." "Who was there?" She frowned. "Why are you interrogating me?" "Just answer the question." "My team. Branson and his associates. Why?" I stared at her, watching her face, looking for any sign of guilt or discomfort. But she was good. She looked genuinely confused and slightly annoyed. "Ethan saw you last night," I said. "At Romano's. With someone." Her expression didn't change. "What?" "He saw you with a man, holding hands, kissing." Now something flickered in her eyes. Fear. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" "Yes. I was at the office last night until almost midnight. You can check with anyone on my team." "I read your text messages, Elena. I saw the conversation with Adam." The color drained from her face. For a long moment, she just stared at me, mouth slightly open, like she was trying to figure out what to say. "You went through my phone? That's what you're focused on right now? You had no right. You're having an affair." I said it flat, emotionless, because if I let any emotion in, I was going to lose it. "For 6 months, with someone named Adam. You told him you loved him." She stood up, pacing now. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" "It's complicated." "Complicated." I laughed, a harsh sound. "That's the best you can do?" "We've been unhappy for years." Her voice was rising now, defensive. "You know we have. We barely talk. We barely touch. We're like roommates, not spouses. Don't make this about me. You've been checked out of this marriage for years." "I've been checked out? You're the one who works until midnight every night. You're the one who can't be bothered to have a conversation. You're the one who forgot we exist. That's not fair. None of this is fair." I stood up, needing to move, to do something. "Who is he?" "It doesn't matter." It matters to me. She closed her eyes. Someone from work, a colleague. How long? I told you. 6 months. And you love him? She didn't answer right away. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were wet. Yes. The word was like a knife. I'd known it was coming, had read it in her messages, but hearing her say it out loud was different. Final. Then why are you still here? I asked. Because it's complicated. Because we have a son. Because I don't know what I want. You want him. I want to feel something again. Anything. And with Adam, I do. Get out. What? Get out of this house. Go to him. I don't care. Just get out. You can't just throw me out. This is my house too. Then I'll leave. But I'm not staying here tonight with you. I grabbed my keys and walked toward the door. Where are you going? She called after me. I didn't answer. I just left. Sunday morning, I woke up to a knock on my hotel room door. I opened it to find Ethan standing there, looking miserable. How did you find me? I asked. I checked every hotel in town until I found your car. That's actually pretty resourceful. Can I come in? I stepped aside, and he walked past me into the small room. He looked around, taking in the unmade bed and the empty food containers on the desk. This is where you've been staying? For now. He sat on the edge of the bed. Mom told me you guys are getting divorced. We are. Because of what she did? Yeah. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, She also told me you've been doing things, bad things, to the guy she was with. What did she tell you exactly? That you've been harassing him, vandalizing his stuff, that you're the reason he got in trouble at work. And what do you think about that? He looked at me. I think I understand why you're angry. But I don't understand why you're doing this. It's not going to change anything. Maybe not. But it makes me feel better. Does it? Because you look miserable. I sat down next to him. You're right. It doesn't make me feel better. But it's something. It's action. And I've spent too many years just accepting things, just letting life happen to me. I'm done with that. So you're going to destroy some guy's life instead. He helped destroy mine. And that makes it okay? I don't know. Maybe not. But it's what I'm doing. Ethan shook his head. This isn't you, Dad. Everyone keeps saying that. But maybe they're wrong. Maybe this is me. Maybe I've just been hiding it for 40 years. I don't believe that. Believe what you want. We sat in silence for a while. Then Ethan said, Mom's getting a lawyer. A really good one. She's going to fight for custody of me. I know. And she's going to use what you've been doing against you. I know that too. So why don't you stop? Why don't you just let it go? Because I can't. Not yet. He looked at me with something like disappointment in his eyes. When will you be able to? I don't know. He stood up. I love you, Dad, but I don't like what you're becoming. Those words hit harder than anything else had in this whole mess. I watched him walk to the door, and I wanted to call him back, wanted to tell him he was right, that I'd stop, that I'd be better. But I didn't. He left, and I sat alone in the hotel room, staring at the wall. Monday morning, I got an email from a lawyer, Elena's lawyer, informing me that divorce proceedings had been initiated and that I should retain counsel. I called a lawyer I knew from work, a guy named Tom who specialized in family law. We met that afternoon at his office. This is going to be messy, he said after reading through Elena's filing. She's claiming irreconcilable differences and asking for primary custody based on concerns about your mental state. My mental state is fine. Is it? Because she's got statements here about erratic behavior, harassment of a third party, vandalism. She can't prove any of that. She doesn't have to prove it. She just has to make it look likely. And if there's a police report, if there's any evidence at all, there isn't. Tom leaned back in his chair. Let me be straight with you. If you want to fight for joint custody, you need to be squeaky clean from here on out. No more whatever you've been doing. No contact with this Adam guy. No drama. I'm done with him anyway. Good. Now let's talk about your strategy. We spent the next hour going over options, division of assets, custody arrangements, financial support, all the ugly details of dismantling a life. By the time I left Tom's office, I felt exhausted. And for the first time since this started, I felt something else too. Regret. Not regret for going after Adam. He deserved everything he got, but regret for letting it consume me, for letting my anger and need for revenge overshadow everything else, including my relationship with Ethan. Tuesday morning, I made a decision. I was done with Adam. He was leaving town, his career was in shambles, and his reputation was destroyed. There was nothing left to take from him. It was time to focus on what really mattered. I drove to the house that afternoon. Elena's car wasn't in the driveway, which meant she was at work. Good. I wasn't ready to see her yet. I went inside and started packing my things. Real packing this time, not just throwing clothes in a bag. I was moving out permanently, finding an apartment, starting over. It took me 3 trips to get everything into my car. Clothes, books, personal items. 15 years of life reduced to a few boxes. I was loading the last box when Elena pulled into the driveway. She got out of her car and just stood there, watching me. "You're leaving," she said. "I am." "Where are you going?" "Apartment downtown. Signed the lease this morning." She walked closer. "So this is really happening. Did you think it wouldn't?" I don't know what I thought. We stood there in awkward silence. Then she said, "I'm sorry. For everything. I know I keep saying it, but I mean it. I know you do. Does that matter to you at all?" I thought about that. "I don't know. Maybe someday, but not now." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "Are we going to be okay? Eventually?" "I don't know that either." "What about Ethan? What about him? He needs both of us. He needs us to be civil, to work together." "I can be civil." "Can you? Because what you've been doing is over. I'm done with Adam. He's not my problem anymore." What changed? Ethan came to see me, said some things that made me realize I was becoming someone I didn't want to be. He's a good kid. He is. Better than both of us deserve. She smiled, sad and small. "Yeah." I closed the trunk of my car. "I need to go." "Okay." I got in the car and started the engine. Elena stood in the driveway, watching me leave. In the rearview mirror, I saw her wipe her eyes. I drove away, toward my new apartment, toward whatever came next. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel angry. I just felt empty. The apartment was small, just a 1-bedroom on the 4th floor of a building that smelled like old carpet and cooking oil. But it was mine. No shared memories, no ghosts. I spent Wednesday unpacking, setting up my laptop on a folding table, hanging clothes in the tiny closet. It didn't feel like home yet. It felt like a waiting room, a temporary space between one life and the next. Thursday morning, I went back to work. Richard looked surprised when I walked in. "You're back," he said. "I am." "Everything okay?" "Getting there." He nodded and didn't push it. That was one thing I appreciated about Richard. He knew when to leave things alone. I dove back into work, letting the mundane tasks of case files and client emails fill the empty spaces in my head. It was easier to focus on other people's problems than my own. At lunch, I got a text from Tom, my lawyer. "Elena's lawyer wants to meet, discuss terms before things get ugly." I called him. "What kind of terms?" "Standard stuff. Asset division, custody schedule, support payments. They want to avoid court if possible." "Do you think that's smart?" "Depends on what they're offering. Want me to set up a meeting?" "Yeah, do it." The meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday, 5 days away. I tried not to think about it, tried to just keep moving forward. Friday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? It's Adam. I almost hung up. I thought I told you we were done talking. We are. I just wanted you to know I'm leaving. Tomorrow morning. Took a job in Seattle. Good for you. I also wanted to say, I'm sorry. For what happened. For my part in it. Little late for that. I know. But I wanted to say it anyway. There was a pause. Then he said, For what it's worth, I think Elena really did love you. What happened between us? It was a mistake. A selfish mistake. You're right. It was. Take care of yourself. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there staring at my phone, not sure how to feel. Part of me wanted to feel satisfied. He was leaving, his life in ruins, exactly like I'd wanted. But instead, I just felt tired. Saturday, I went to see Ethan. He was at the house, in his room, doing homework. Hey, I said from the doorway. He looked up, surprised. Hey. Can we talk? Sure. I sat on the edge of his bed. I wanted to apologize, for the past few weeks, for making everything harder than it needed to be. It's okay. It's not. You were right. I was becoming someone I didn't want to be. Someone angry and vindictive. Are you still angry? Yeah, but I'm working on it. He set down his pencil. Did you stop? With the guy Mom was with? I did. He's leaving town anyway. Because of what you did? Partly. But also because he was going to lose his job regardless. He'd been doing the same thing to other women for years. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'm glad you stopped. Not because I care about him, but because I care about you. I know. And I'm sorry I worried you. So what happens now? With you and Mom? We're getting divorced. That's not changing. But we're going to try to do it without destroying each other. And me? Where do I fit in all this? You fit everywhere. With me, with her, with both of us. Nothing about that changes. Even if she gets primary custody? Even then. You're my son. That doesn't change no matter what a judge says. He nodded, looking relieved. We talked for a while longer, about school and his friends and stupid things that had nothing to do with the divorce. It felt normal. Good. When I left, Elena was in the kitchen. I stopped in the doorway. Thanks for letting me see him, I said. He's your son. You don't need my permission. I know, but still, thanks. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. You look better. Calmer. I feel better. Good. I started to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, I'm sorry too. For what I did. It wasn't right. But you're not sorry it happened. No, I'm not. She smiled, sad but understanding. At least you're honest. I left before things could get more complicated. The next few days passed in a blur. Work, apartment, sleep, repeat. I was building a new routine, a new normal. Tuesday came and Tom and I met with Elena and her lawyer at a conference room downtown. The negotiations were tense but civil. We agreed on joint custody, split assets down the middle, and I'd pay support for Ethan until he turned 18. By the end of the meeting, the divorce was essentially done. Just paperwork and waiting periods now. As we left, Elena caught my arm. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Sure. We walked to a coffee shop down the street and sat by the window. I wanted to say thank you, she said, for being reasonable today. I know that couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, but it was necessary. I also wanted to ask, do you think we'll ever be friends again? Like, years from now? I thought about that. I don't know. Maybe. But not for a long time. That's fair. We sat in silence for a moment, drinking our coffee, watching people walk by outside. Do you regret it? I asked. The affair? Every single day. But you still love him? She looked at me. I did, but it wasn't real. It was just escape, from everything I felt was wrong with my life. And now? Now I'm trying to figure out who I am without him, without us, without any of it. Yeah, me too. We finished our coffee and said goodbye on the sidewalk. It felt final in a way that was both sad and necessary. I walked back to my car, feeling like a chapter had closed. Not a happy ending, not really an ending at all, just a transition into something new and unknown. And for now, that was enough.